book lovers, it's Jenny at Julia Baby Jen's Reading Room, and this is my July wrap-up.
Busted!
So this month was not a bad month for me. I read 22 books. I fell behind a lot during Fair Week. There was a couple weeks that I just did not get a lot of reading done. That was okay. I read a lot this last week, and August I think will be a lot better. So as far as quality of books, there was all over the board. Some I loved, some I didn't. So there were some great reads and there were some not so great reads. So let's get started.
Busted! This here's a tale for all the fellas trying to do what those ladies tell us. Get shot down cause you're overzealous. Play hard to get females, get jealous. Okay, smarty, go to a party. Girls are scantily clad and showing body. A chick walks by and you wish you can sex her, but you're standing on the wall like you was Poindexter. Next day's function, high class luncheon. Food is served and you're stone cold munching. Music comes on, people start to dance, but then you ate so much you nearly split your pants. A girl starts walking, guys start talking. Sits down next to you and starts talking. Said she wants to dance cause she likes the groove. So come on, fatso, and just bust the move.
Hey, yeah. First, I read Ash and Winter by Mike Mullen. This is the second book in the Ashfall series, and it was just as good as the first, if not a little bit better. It was definitely, I think, just as gripping and just as scary and frightening as Ashfall. I gave it 4.5 stars. Then I read Wasteland by Susan Kim. This was a dystopian novel, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't head over heels in love with it or anything, but it was an enjoyable read, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Towering by Alex Flynn. This is actually a retelling of Rapunzel, and it was really good. I enjoyed it just as much as Beastly, I think. Not, it wasn't. I like Beastly just a little bit better, but Towering was good. It was a good retelling of a fairy tale. Very unrealistic, especially towards the end, but it is a retelling of a fairy tale, so realism is not the key there. But it was an enjoyable story. Plague by Michael Grant. This is the 4th book in the Gone series, and I did a very long video review on this book earlier because there's so much to talk about in it. But basically, I loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars, just like I've given the other books. And this one was thoroughly gross. There was lots of gross things happening in this book, and all of them are kind of gross because it's got a decent amount of sci-fi. But this one took the cake, and if I didn't already love this series, I probably wouldn't have finished reading the book. But I do love the series, and it's very, very addictive. It's just very addictive, and I'll probably be reading the 5th one pretty soon. The next one I read actually in June, and I forgot to cover it in my wrap-up. I read Walking Disaster by Jamie McGuire, which is a sequel to Beautiful Disaster. Basically, it's the same story as Beautiful Disaster, except it's told from Travis's point of view. I enjoyed it. I actually like Beautiful Disaster a little bit better, I think. Even though it was nice to get Travis's point of view on things and understand some of the reasons he did some things he did, I still don't feel like his reasons justified some of his actions. And I mean, I'm just raised with a certain idea that there's a certain way you treat a girl, and he was very close to crossing a lot of those lines a lot. And so if it had been me, I wouldn't have put up with it. But, she was this very, very strong character, so she probably could handle him. But yeah. But I did enjoy the story. It was good to read it again. But again, just not quite as much as Beautiful Disaster. And I gave it 4.5 stars, same as Beautiful Disaster. This is one of my favorite books of the month, Looking for Alaska by John Green. This is the second John Green I've read. I read Fault in Our Stars, and this one was not quite as good as that, but I did give it 5 stars. It's actually John Green's very first novel, and it's really, really good for a first novel, so it definitely deserves 5 stars. It's very, very interesting, and I really liked this book. So I'm excited to read the rest of his. That is my goal this year, to read all of John Green's books. I read Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion, and I really did like this book. It was good. It was a good zombie book. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I really liked the book, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Summer I Turned Pretty by Amy Han, or excuse me, The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han, and I enjoyed it. It was a very light chick lit YA book, and I enjoyed it. I wanted a good summer read, and that's why I picked it up. I was a little bit surprised at the ending with it, but things didn't quite turn out the way I wanted them to, but it was still a decent read, and I think I read it all in one sitting. I don't think I put it down all the entire time I read it. It was very addictive, and I gave it 4 stars. Then I read Starcursed by Jessica Spotswood. This is the sequel to Born Wicked, and I loved Born Wicked, and I loved Starcursed. It was a great sequel. I'm not sure if I liked it quite as much as Born Wicked, but I did give it 5 stars, and I really love that series. The Girl with the Iron Touch by Katie Cross. This is the 3rd book in the Steampunk Chronicles, and I'm now caught up with the series. I don't know if there's going to be any more books, but the way this ends, it looks like there probably will be, so I'm excited. This one, they were back in London. The 2nd book, they were in New York, and I liked them being back in London. I think the series worked better in London. And this went back to more the actual relationships of the characters. But my one complaint was Jasper, who I loved so much in the previous 2 books, almost wasn't even hardly in this one. He was around, but he was kind of just on the sidelines. He was pretty depressed after what happened in the 2nd book, so that was a lot of it. But I missed Jasper being a part of things, so this one really was a lot more about Emily, which was great, and I actually started to like Sam in this one. I didn't like Sam in the previous 2, and he's starting to grow on me now, so can't wait to read the next one. Vortex by Julie Cross. This is the sequel to Tempest, and I have heard a love and hate thing with this series. I think it's because it's very confusing. It is probably the most confusing time travel book that I've read, and at times reading this, I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. I mean, there's so many. They don't know certain things with this world, the way that time travel is going. They're not really sure. They're guessing a lot of the time, and then they start figuring it out. So I am gonna really have to reread Tempest and Vortex again, I think, before the final book comes out, because I remember what happened in Tempest, but I still felt really lost half the time in this book. But I did love it. It was really good. Just really good twists and turns, and I love time travel and the whole sci-fi element. I think it's so interesting. But yeah, I did like it. It was really good. I think it was better than Tempest, and I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Secret for a Song by S.K. Falls, and this one disappointed me just a little bit. I did give it 4 stars. I guess I was amazed that I finished it, really. It was a good book, and the ending I was very sad with, although I felt it was very realistic. But basically the main girl in it, she has a problem, a mental disability, but it's the most weird one I've heard of, and I can't think of what the name of her disease is. It's pretty rare. But basically, she wants to hurt herself. Basically, she wants to make herself sick for attention. Her home life isn't really the best. The relationship between her and her parents is pretty bad, actually. It looks good on the surface. They're very rich, but especially between her and her mom. Her and her mom are just... And she's the only child, and her mom almost hates her. I mean, it's kind of sad, and that's mainly why she started doing it when she was really little. She started by, first she swallowed a sewing needle, and she researches on the internet basic ways to make herself sick without anybody realizing that she did it. That she always gets found out. And the book starts out, she's getting pulled out of college. She went away to college for a semester, and she got pulled out of college because she was getting herself sick, and so her mom came and got her and brought her home. So she starts seeing another shrink, but basically all the shrinks are basically trying to get her whole family into the sessions, and her dad travels all the time, and her mom doesn't want anything to do with it. So she's always alone at the sessions, and really it's a family problem that needs to be dealt with, but they don't really, so nothing really gets solved. And I felt really sorry for her, really. I can't imagine making yourself sick. Oh, being in the hospital all the time, I can't stand that. And that was a thing I think that I had trouble with. Just all of the graphic details on some of the stuff that she did in the hospital and that kind of stuff. Ugh, gives me the shivers. But I did make it through, and it was very interesting to me. I really couldn't stop reading because I had to know what was going to happen with her and everything. And she basically, starts volunteering at the hospital for like support groups. Like she sets up their coffee and stuff like that. They don't want her, you know, she has to be signed in and out. She can't just wander around the hospital because of her disease. They don't want her to, she can steal stuff to make herself sick. And yeah, it's amazing to let her volunteer. But she gets mistaken as one of the people in a support group, and all the people in the support group are about her age. And they all have really horrible diseases, and several of them are probably going to die from their diseases. And so she kind of lies and says that she has, I can't remember what she says she has, multiple sclerosis. And just to kind of get on our conversation, because she's fascinated by, you know, the fact that these people actually die, because she doesn't have a wish to die. She just wants to be sick for attention. That's the thing with her disease. They don't actually want to kill themselves. They just want to be sick, which is weird. But so she kind of fibs, and she gets into their social life outside the hospital and makes friends with these people. And then she feels bad because she's lied to them about the fact that she has this disease, and she doesn't have a disease. She doesn't have that kind of a disease. So yeah, you can just imagine how that's going to turn out. And then the relationship with her parents. So it's a really interesting book. But yeah, the ending was a little disappointing. But I suppose if you wanted to keep it realistic, and getting through all that hospital stuff was... But I did give it 4 stars because I thought it was really interesting and the writing was really, really good. I read Grace, Gold, and Glory by Gabrielle Douglas. She is the gymnast, American gymnast who won the Olympics individual all-around. Basically, if you're a woman in women's gymnastics, that is the best prize, I guess, what every gymnast dreams of getting, and the chances of getting it are extremely slim. And I've been interested in Gabby because she trained here in Iowa, and so I started following her when she moved to Iowa because I followed Shawn Johnson, and I like following that. I was a gymnast when I was little. I obviously didn't get as far as any of these girls got, basically because of money, but I did gymnastics for several years when I was little, so I just like to watch it. It's fun. But yeah, so this book was basically her story about how she, most of it, there was, before she moved to Des Moines and then after, she talked a lot about when she was little and her family, and she talks a lot about the bullying she got when she was in Virginia. She got bullied a lot in the gym because she was black, and there aren't very many black gymnasts. So yeah, she got a lot of, especially when she started doing really good, then they really ganged up on her. So she talks a little about that, and then she talks about how she had to convince her mom to move here, because she just moved by herself. She didn't move with her family because her mom's a single mom with 4 kids, and she couldn't move. But they found a host family in Des Moines who agreed to, they had 4 girls already. They're all younger than Gabby, and they had, one of them was in child's gymnastics already, so they volunteered for Gabby to stay with them. So she lived with them for 2 years while she trained with Chow for the Olympics, because her coaching in Virginia wasn't very good, and she wasn't getting very far. She met Chow. He came out to Virginia for like a camp week in their gym, and he taught her a whole bunch of stuff like within like a day, and she was so impressed with him that she saw him and Shawn at the Olympics and really liked their relationship, so she wanted that. So a 14-year-old girl, black girl, moved from Virginia to Des Moines, Iowa. And not that there aren't blacks in Iowa. There's actually quite a few, but you know, you would know that probably if you were in Virginia. So she lived for 2 years in Des Moines. I mean, her mom came and visited her and all that, and the Olympics was still kind of a long shot, but she made it. And she actually got 2 golds because she got the team medal, the team won, and then of course she got the individual. And I think that's all the medals she got, because the individual events I don't think she medaled in. She kind of fell apart those events. But So anyway, I read her book and it was interesting, and I gave it 4 stars. Read Alice in Zombieland by Gina Showalter, and I have been looking forward to reading this one for a long time, and it was really good. My only gripe with it is, I was expecting more of the Alice in Wonderland element with I knew it was a zombie book, but I was expecting more of the Alice in Wonderland, and really, I didn't get very many connections. Now, granted, it's been a while since I've read Alice in Wonderland, but the only thing I could really get was the beginning kind of was, and the chapter titles were reminiscent of the book. I mean, they would say like going down the rabbit hole would be a title of a chapter or something like that. And the beginning part of it, I could see the parallel, but after that, it was basically its own paranormal book. And it felt more into the paranormal variety than like a dystopian. So it was much more paranormal with the zombies. It was really good. I enjoyed the read. But yeah, it was a little different than what I was expecting. And I gave it 4 stars. Then I read The Testing by Joelle Charbonneau. And I did enjoy this dystopian. I gave it 4 stars. It was very similar to The Hunger Games as far as the storyline and the main character and certain things that were happening. As it got going, though, it got less and less from The Hunger Games, and it was more of a watered down version, I think, if you're going to say that. So if you like The Hunger Games, you probably would like this, but it's not quite as good as that. The next book it's set up really well for the sequel. So the sequel looks really promising, and it would take a huge departure from The Hunger Games. It was very addictive. It was a quick read. I couldn't put it down. So if you like dystopians, you'd probably like this, but don't go into it expecting it to be like the best dystopian you ever read, because it isn't. But it's a good read. Fire by Angie Sage. Oh, I can never say her name. This is the 7th and final book in the Septimus Heap series, which I love. I adore that series. I kind of started reading it by chance, and yeah, I can't remember how, but I ended up with the first book, and I read it, and I loved it, so I bought the rest of them, and as they came out, and really enjoyed them. So yeah, this one was in the library. I haven't bought it yet, but I'm going to buy it sometime, so I have the complete set. My kids really like these books too. They're middle grade, and they definitely feel more middle grade, but they remind me a lot of Harry Potter. They're not as well written, but the magical world and the characters and the way the author sets up stuff through the series. In this book, it's like everything that happened before in the series, it all kind of ties together in this book. But the great thing about the stories is they each feel like their own individual adventure story, just like Harry Potter, which I really liked. So it's the closest thing I've found to Harry Potter since I read Harry Potter. Of course, it's not nearly as good. I'm not going to compare them in that way, but I really did enjoy it, and it's really kind of cute, and it's fun. The kids are smarter than the adults half the time in it, which is really funny, and all these cute little humor bits are in it, and it's just really a fun series. So yeah, I'm going to miss it. I did find out at the end of it that there is going to be a spin-off series for this, so with the different characters, but it'll be in the same world. So that would be great to read, because I do love this world, and I'm not ready to say goodbye to it yet. Oh, I didn't tell you what I rated it. I gave it 5 stars. I've given all of them 5 stars because they're really good reads. The Tale of Despero by Kate D. Camillo. This actually I listened to on audio with my daughter. She got the audiobook at the library, and I already had a copy, so she was kind of reading along as we were listening. We had a bunch of car driving to drive one week, and so we listened almost the entire book in the car. And then we had like I don't remember how many pages, maybe like 60 pages left. So I just read it, the last part of it. I didn't listen to it on the audiobook. She still has to finish it. But I enjoyed this story. This is definitely my favorite children's book of the year I've read, not counting Fire. I really did enjoy this one. It was a really cute book. It had great lessons like all good children's books, and it was just a really cute read. And if you like children's books, you would like this one. And I gave it 4 stars. Then This Is What Happy Looks Like by Jennifer E. Smith. She also wrote The Statistical Probability of Love at First Sight, and I did like that book. And I think I like this one actually a little bit better. Um, this one is about Graham and Ellie. Ellie lives in Maine and Graham lives in LA, and he is actually a famous actor, a 17-year-old actor. And they meet accidentally online. Basically, he sends her an email. He meant to send it to someone else, but he typed in a wrong character, and so it went to her. And she responded and said that, she didn't know what he was talking about. You must have the wrong email. And they ended up talking and like hitting it off. And so they had this email relationship for months, and they never told each other like their names or anything. They just called each other G and E. And but he starts to learn more and more about her. Well, he's got a chance to. They're going to go filming on location, and they're going to go to this beach place, I think in North Carolina, and it fell through. So he convinced the producer and the director that her hometown in Maine would be the great place to shoot this because it was very, it was perfect for what they were looking for the movie. So he goes there to basically meet her, and it's not as easy as it would seem because she has a hidden past as well that she doesn't want him to know about, and so she has legitimate reasons for not wanting to be with someone who is famous. So it's an interesting relationship, and it takes some. I mean, they're not, but they connect so well, and it's just a really good story. It's not realistic at all, but it was a fun read, and I was pretty happy with the ending. It does give you a nice happy feeling at the end, just like the cover would suggest. So if you're looking for a happy read that will, I don't know, this would be a good beach book. So yeah, I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Rise by Anna Carey. Yeah, I gave it 3 stars, and I felt I was being generous. I liked this series. I mean, it's not been my favorite series, but I enjoyed Eve. I thought Eve was a really good read. And Once was pretty good too. Not quite as good as Eve, but I enjoyed it enough to finish the series. There was a huge twist that happens in Once, but I was hoping that there would be another twist on the twist without giving anything away. But basically someone dies that you don't want to die, and I was hoping they weren't really dead, kind of like what happened in the Delirium series. And it takes till like the last page before we find out. I'm not going to tell you in case you read it and haven't read Rise. But so I was hoping for more on that, and we got like a page at the end, and it just ended. That I closed the book, and I was really frustrated because I know this is the last book in the series. It says on it that it's a trilogy, and this is the last book, and really it needs another book. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Requiem, people were complaining about that, how it ended without any closure, but at least it had closure as far as, the situation, as far as you didn't really know exactly what's going to happen, but you got your idea on it, and it was beautiful, and it gave you like hope. There were certain things in it that worked. This one, it just kind of ended. There was nothing poetic about it. It just stopped. It was the weirdest thing. I did not like that. And then the whole story was so... I had trouble believing any of it. I couldn't get myself sucked into the world at all. It was like someone was just like narrating text almost. Like there was no connection to any characters. There was not very much talk about emotions through most of it, and there was plenty. It wasn't like it was action from cover to cover. There was a little bit, and stuff happened like really fast. Like 1 second we're doing this, and like a chapter later everything's this, and it's just like move through it too fast. Like it just, it didn't give us enough time to explore all of it, and we were moving on to this and moving on to this. And it's like someone tried to write the book as fast as they could write it, really is what it looked like. It didn't look like anybody spent any time on this, and I don't know what happened, because I don't think the author is a bad writer. There were parts of the book that were very well written and parts that were really good, and the whole concept is good. And as far as like the whole government society thing at the end, I think even though it didn't wrap up completely, I think we got a gist of what was going to happen, and that part of it made sense. But the characters themselves, and it was like trying to tie up everything with everybody, but they didn't give enough time for any of it to settle, really. And there's characters that are from the beginning of the book that we don't get to see, or we get to hear about occasionally throughout the series, but the main character, she's not with the characters are in the beginning, and she finds most of them in this book, but it's like there's no time really spent on any of that. Like the emotions, I mean, there's some of it, but it's, I don't know. Yeah, it really disappointed me, which is sad. So even though I was happy with the ending twist, and it only gave us a half a page to, and like it didn't have any reaction from the main character. Like we find out what really happened, and there's no reaction. She just walks into a room and says a sentence, and that's it. I was like, what? I mean, could we not have more with that? The thing that we've been waiting to find out and so excited to find out, and the thing all the fans are hoping for, and that's it? I mean, yeah, can't tell if I'm frustrated I was. So don't read this trilogy. That's what I'm basically telling you. It sounds horrible, and I don't usually say that. If you've already started and you want to finish it, just don't have high hopes for it, I guess. It's not a very long read, so you'll fly through it. But yeah, if you want to know what really happened, just look in the last couple pages, and that'll tell you enough if you want to know the closure to it. So yeah, that is disappointing. But yeah, don't read this series. I'm talking to certain friends of mine that I know would kill me if I recommended this series now to them. Don't read it. I don't think any of them started it yet, so don't read it. The first book is great, the second book's okay, the third book sucks. So it's not worth your time, and I know most of my friends who would want to read it would want to read the whole thing. So yeah, don't read it. Life as We Knew It by Susan Beth Pfeffer. This is a first book, and I think it's called the Lost Survivors series, and it's a dystopian story. It's kind of written out like a journal or a diary, which is interesting. As a diary or a journal, which is kind of interesting. Miranda is the MC, and it's all from her point of view, and she lives a pretty ordinary life in Pennsylvania. She's a 16-year-old girl, has a younger brother and an older brother, and her parents are divorced. Her dad is remarried to a younger girl, and she's pregnant. She has two best friends and sort of a love interest, and that's pretty much the extent of her world. What happens is a meteor hits the moon, and it hits it hard enough to knock it off course, and it gets a lot closer to Earth. And so it doesn't crash into Earth, but it's orbiting much closer, and it throws off everything in our world. It throws off the gravity of the moon, affects the tides, and it creates volcanoes and earthquakes and tsunamis and all kinds of horrible things. Now where she's at, they don't have any major catastrophes in her little town. Other than they're cut off from the rest of the world. Pretty much the world is about over. I mean, there's no society at all. There's no government really controlling. Everybody's kind of on their own. And things steadily get worse. It's a big event at the first part, and the first couple of days are very scary, and then things kind of get to normal, but not really. And it's just like a slow descent into the apocalypse. Those are words from a friend of mine, but it's just really interesting. So, and it's a little bit it was a little freaky to me because of how realistic parts of it were. There was a few things, I guess. I think that it wasn't like my favorite book. I gave it 4 stars because it held my attention and it was interesting. I think some of it was sugar-coated a little bit. It didn't get as graphic as some of the other dystopians I've ever read, but a lot of that had to do with their isolation. I guess, at times it seemed she was very kind of shallow at times, and she was worrying over little things a lot, and I don't think that's really that far off. She's not like a typical dystopian MC character where she's kick butt and everything, although she does have her shining moments. She's a lot more normal, and I think that's what made this book feel so realistic. And the most gripping parts of it were really her relationship between her and her mom, and then her and her brothers. It was very gripping how their relationships changed, and things that happened, and what they all had to do for each other. So that was interesting. So yeah, I did enjoy it, and I think I will go ahead and continue to read the series. The next book is from another perspective. It's not anything to do with her, but I think the third book is her perspective again. So yeah, I think I'm going to continue to read this one. The Forest of Hands and Teeth by Carrie Ryan. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. It is definitely scary. Felt like it's a dystopian novel in the future, but it feels like very old school. It made me think parts of it of the movie The Village, kind of that, but very similar setup. Except that in The Village those monster things weren't real. These are. There's real zombies in here. And the main character, her name is Mary, and she isn't content with where she's at in the village, and she's kind of an outsider. She doesn't fit in with anybody. The boy that she loves can't be hers. There's another boy who loves her, and she's friends with him, but she doesn't really want to be with him that way, and she doesn't really fit in anywhere. She's to the age now where she has to decide what she's going to do in her society, and she doesn't fit anywhere, and she really just wants to get out of the village and get out of the forest and find the ocean is her dream. So that's basically the setup of the story, and it's scary and freaky and ruthless, and there's lots of deaths, and yeah, it's a really good zombie dystopian, and I'm excited to read the rest of the series. The Endgames by T. Michael Martin. This one disappointed me a little bit. I gave it 3 stars. There were parts that I really loved, but I think my problem with it was the style of the writing. I just didn't connect to the style. It was written kind of like a video game, I guess, is the good parallel there. And the main character, he basically has a video game in his head the entire time, and he's playing a game, and that's how he kind of survives, because he's good at video games, and he's trying to protect his little brother who's 6. It's basically a zombie dystopian. His little brother who's 6 has some special needs, and he basically has a mental condition where if he freaks out or gets worried, he has like these huge temper tantrums and hurts himself, that kind of a thing. So he's protecting him by telling him this is all a game, and they get certain points for whatever they do that day, like, oh, you found this, 5 points or whatever. So his brother isn't scared, so they can try to get their way out of this zombie world. There's so many twists and turns. I don't trust anybody in the book the entire time, and so yeah, it's a good thriller in that way, and I liked that part. I really liked the twists and turns and all that. But again, I think it was just the style, and I didn't like the style of it, I guess. So, you know, it was a good read if you would like that type of a book, but yeah, the style just wasn't it for me, so I gave it 3 stars. So that's what I read for July. Not too bad. I am not going to do a TBR for August. I kind of already did one with my readathon. So if, I will link that below if you want to see some of the books I'm going to read in August. I haven't made a complete list for all of August because I don't know. Sometimes I change my mind on what I want to read. So I didn't really want to make a huge, big, long list. I feel like I had to stick to it. But the ones in the TBR for the readathon is really what I'm looking to read in August. And I'm hoping for a great month. So I will talk to you guys later. Everyone have a great August. Bye.
Busted.